Hi everyone, this is Tina Ward with CONIX Systems. I'd like to share some information about CONIX's duplicate and fraud detection solutions. CONIX Systems' Dupe Detective and Fraud Detective solutions help financial institutions decrease the risk and meet regulatory requirements associated with fraudulent and duplicate payments. In today's payment environment, banks and credit unions of all sizes are looking to decrease their payment risk. Mobile and remote deposit services inherently carry greater risk because, unlike other payment options, the bank's customers keep the checks. This leaves opportunity for customers to deposit checks multiple times through different channels. When you add competitive pressures for faster funds availability and to raise high dollar caps on that availability, many institutions are finding themselves in very high-risk situations. In addition, with the industry trend toward faster payments in the form of same-day ACH transactions, same-day representment, and real-time payments, the risk for fraud and duplicate payments is at an all-time high. Specifically, financial institutions are at risk for the loss of the funds, of course, but the cost associated with the institution's adjustment process is also a consideration, and the potential damage to customer relationships and the bank or credit union's reputation. The primary objective of Dupe Detective and Fraud Detective is early detection of fraud and duplicates. With these solutions, financial institutions can safely extend popular deposit options to their customers. These solutions also help financial institutions comply with regulatory guidance, such as the FFIEC's guidelines for identification, tracking, and monitoring of fraud and duplicate events. Fraud and duplicate detection help financial institutions narrow the window of time that the customer has to withdraw the funds before the fraud or duplicate is detected. These products provide day one detection, identifying fraud and duplicates before they post to the customer's account. And they also enable bank systems like teller, ATM, mobile, and remote deposit systems to inquire in real time to see if the payment is a fraud or duplicate before releasing the funds. The detective solutions automate as much of the processing as possible. The solutions accept and process items across all channels and platforms, including mobile or remote deposit capture, image exchange, ACH, debit card, wire, teller, ATM, and online banking systems. As payments come in from the various sources, the fraud suspects are identified by applying the fraud controls the institution specifies, and the duplicate suspects are identified by a data match. Since the representment of returned items is the biggest source of false duplicates, they are automatically filtered out up front. The institution can also define its own filters for recurring false duplicates. Business rules are applied to further automate the handling of both fraud and duplicate suspects. So with all these tools available, the institution can minimize the number of suspects that an operator needs to review. Once all of the suspects have been decisioned, the results are integrated back into the payment system for final resolution of the confirmed fraudulent and duplicate payments. The products also have the capability of accepting and responding to inquiries from customer-facing systems with the results of the fraud and duplicate processing. The customer-facing systems can then determine how to handle the item. Now I'd like to demonstrate some of the key functions of the detective products. Due to the high degree of automation, the only areas of user interaction are the administrative task of setting up the system and the operator review of suspect payments as needed. First, let's take a look at how the fraud controls for fraud detection are specified. Fraud controls are defined by account group, and you can set up the account groups any way that best fits your institution. For example, you can have a retail or personal account group, or a commercial or large business account group. Basically, any set of accounts that share typical behaviors or history, such as frequency and amount of deposits or debits, can be set up as an account group. You can then choose from a set of fraud controls that are common indicators of fraudulent activity, such as an unusually large debit amount, and you can specify what the amount threshold is. There are various options that check for unusual frequencies and amounts for both debits and deposits, such as check velocity, daily deposits greater than average, deposit amount greater than average, deposit velocity, and others. You can look at unusual events such as a change of address and check order occurring within a short window of time. You might also flag transaction activity for new accounts as something to keep a close eye on. Keep in mind that you can use the fraud controls in conjunction with the business rules to further screen the payments for indicators of fraudulent activity. Now let's look at how easy it is to define business rules. You can define business rules for automated handling of both fraud and duplicate suspects. Let's add a rule that checks any payment for a new account over a certain dollar amount. So if the amount is less than the threshold specified, it would be considered not to be an exception. Otherwise, it will go to an operator for review as a new account fraud suspect. First, we'll specify the criteria for the rule. There are a variety of variables that you can select from to specify criteria. For this rule, we'll select the disposition code variable, and we'll specify that the disposition code is equal to new account, as defined by the new account fraud control. Now we'll select the amount variable and specify that the amount is less than $500. We could continue to add criteria for the rule. All of the specified criteria must be met for the selected actions to be taken. So we'll select the actions to be taken from the list here. First, we'll set the item disposition to not an exception. We'll also mark the item as having been reviewed, so it will not be forwarded to an operator for further handling. So with this rule in effect, any items for a new account $500 or greater will be forwarded to an operator for review. Lastly, let's see how quickly and easily operators can review fraud and duplicate suspects. The exception review screen lists units of work that contain suspects that cannot be handled automatically and require an operator's attention. A unit of work is any logical group of work that you want to send from your payment system to the Fraud Detective Suite for processing. For example, a file capture run for an item processing environment, or a batch for your ACH work. The operator typically selects the unit of work with the highest priority from the top of the list and is immediately shown the first suspect. In this case, we have a ticket for a deposit that caused the daily deposits for this account to exceed the average by the threshold of 50%, as specified in the fraud controls. This same deposit also caused the fraud control for the deposit amount greater than average to be tripped. The operator can simply accept the disposition that has been assigned, daily deposits greater than average, or they can click on the pull-down arrow and select a different disposition code. Once all suspects have been handled, the decisions or disposition codes are sent back to the payment system where they're prevented from posting to the customer's accounts. That wraps up my overview of CONIX's fraud and dupe detective products. As you can see, they provide a remarkably powerful solution for managing payment risk. We welcome the opportunity to show you how these products can help your institution decrease risk and meet regulatory requirements. For more information, please contact Steve Fortson via the contact information provided here. We look forward to hearing from you soon.